Hello, friends. How are we doing? UFC 296 was last night, and I was 4 for 4. Clap it up for me. Finally, got some predictions right. And I mean, listen. Let's be honest. I pretty much predicted only the favorites, so I mean, I'm not gonna pat myself on the back too much, but I'm still proud of myself. I mean, 4 for 4 is pretty decent, right? And I called it. I saw it the way I saw it. I thought it, um the way the fight was going to play out in my mind for pretty much all of them. I saw it happening, and I called it. I mean, Josh Emmett versus Bryce Mitchell. That was the only fight on the main card that I didn't predict, because at the time there was some other guy that was supposed to fight on the main card. I don't remember his name, but I think it's something Machado. But anyway, this guy basically he pulled out of the fight, couldn't fight, and then Josh Emmett versus Bryce Mitchell started the main card. Best fight on the card. I mean, best fight of the main card, I should say. Maybe not best fight on the card, because they had the women's fight that was pretty good. But for the main card, Bryce Mitchell and Josh Emmett, that was... I don't know if I could even call this the best fight, because it was just Josh Emmett's performance and the result, right? The KO was KO of the year, probably. I mean, the most brutal, vicious, scary knockout I had ever seen. I mean, probably since I started watching UFC. That knockout was just very, very brutal. And... yeah, it happened fast, and like I said, I think Bryce Mitchell, he said it in he had a like Instagram video he posted on Instagram. Yeah, an Instagram video posted on Instagram. He said like his game plan was kind of bad and the wrong thing. I mean, I agree. If I was Mitchell, I would have tried to like fake a jab and then pushed him up against the fence, try to go for takedown, try to grapple right away. When you're fighting a guy like Josh Emmett who's that powerful, you have to get him gassed or tired at least in the beginning, especially in the earlier minutes of the first round where he's the most explosive, or else the risk is just too high. You don't want to get into exchanges with Josh Emmett, because he's not necessarily the most technical guy, but if he lands, bro, it's just bad. And we've seen it happen over and over again. Why take that risk? But I mean, when you're from Arkansas like Bryce Mitchell is, maybe he thought like he could just like thug it out. Isn't that his nickname? Thug Nasty? Yeah, that's it. Maybe he just thought he was built different. But fortunately, we're all human in the end. And if your brain is being tossed around in your cervix systems too much, you're gonna go out and you're gonna have like seizures. That's crazy. That's just crazy bad. Hopefully he recovers decently well. But a KO like this is just hard to come back from. Not only just physically, like from your brain, but mentally as well. Like, how can you gain the confidence back? That's a tough one to come back from. But congratulations to Josh Emmett. I just don't know if he beats like any top 5, top 10 guys outside of Bryce Mitchell. Is there like, if you think about, I mean, maybe he could catch someone, but like in terms of like the technical striking aspect, I don't know. I mean, he got beat up by Ilya Topuria and Yair very, very badly. Bryce Mitchell's striking is just horrendous. I don't know if Josh Emmett's going to be able to do that to other guys, but I mean, he gets himself another paychecks. He gets himself other opportunities in front of him, so that's the most important part. So shout out to Josh Emmett. Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Stephen Thompson. I predicted it. Shavkat Rakhmonov was going to win by ground and pound. I was saying TKO. I mean, he didn't want to strike at all, so I had that wrong. I thought Rakhmonov was going to be more powerful and that he wasn't going to be afraid to strike with Thompson. I was wrong, because he clearly was. He wanted to get up against the fence right away. And maybe I don't want to say scared, because I hate calling fighters scared of anything, because they could be scared, but they're still going to fight. So in my mind, calling them scared is just ridiculous. But I just want to say maybe like not as willing as I thought to strike. And maybe it wasn't a bad strategy after all, right? When you're fighting a guy like Stephen Thompson, you want the most secure way to win. Try to take him down, right? And there's guys like Kevin Holland that do it, like try to be a little bit like the whole ego battle, try to tell himself that he can. But if you have an easier way, an easier route to win, just do that. And that's what Shavkat did. Dominated up against the fence and dominated in the on the ground. But the few exchanges that they had on the feet, Shavkat looked a bit lost. You know what I mean? Maybe it's just Stephen Thompson's striking is just that good. But Shavkat did look a bit lost. I would have liked to see him a bit more confident, try to strike just to tell himself that he can do it, just to gain confidence as well, and then striking against a high-level kickboxer like Stephen Thompson. And I feel like it could have helped him, you know what I mean? Just to build that confidence. Not saying he should have, strike with Stephen the whole fight, but just let himself, in certain moments. And it's not like Thompson has the like one shot KO power as well, that like he's gonna just land at one point and just knock you out cold. It's always a possibility. It's MMA at the end of the day, but I just thought he could have you know, struck more a little bit, built some confidence in that aspect. But in the end, it's another flawless victory for Shavkat Rakhmonov, and I think he should be next, or he should be fighting Belal for #1 contender, in my opinion, because nobody wants to see Belal versus Leon. I'm sorry, that's just boring. It's boring. Like, no, it's just two very, very boring guys fighting each other. No personality. Please, just let Shavkat and Belal fight. #1 contender. They'll fight for the title, whoever's next. Pantoja versus Brandon Royval. Great fight. I mean, Pantoja's dominant. He's just good. And I mean, in the prediction video, it's exactly what I said. Royval, I said it. I remember even doing the movement. His hands are fast, right? The volume is good. He throws a lot of shots, but there's no pop in it. At least Moreno throws the volume. There's some pop in Moreno's shot, at least a little bit. He can rock you. He can wobble you, and he did it against Pantoja. He did it against Figueiredo. He did it against multiple of other guys. Against a guy like Pantoja who just keeps walking you down, you have to have some power. You have to like be able to throw some shots that are gonna, you know, calm the aggressor down a little bit, or else the guy's just gonna keep walking you forward, just eat the shots a little bit. But Royval felt like he just wanted to touch him, right? But it wasn't enough to stop the momentum from Pantoja. And Pantoja was just able to take him down whenever he wanted, and his shot just had more sting, more pop to it. Maybe he didn't land as much, but just did more damage, landed more significant strikes. So overall, Pantoja's was just better in that fight, but Royval still has some, you know, he showed some heart in there. Great cardio as well, lasting the whole 5 round, and still looked like fresh at the end of the 5th round. So respect to Royval. He just has to work on his takedown defense, in my opinion, and work on some power. He needs some power behind these strikes, because like I said, you can land 1,000 million strikes, but if it does nothing to your opponent, they're nothing. You know what I mean? They won't affect the way he fights. They won't affect the way he fights you. So yeah, he needs to work on, you know, getting some stings on the pop, and then he could be very, 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 very dangerous. But for this video, I wanted to talk more so on the Tony Ferguson versus Paddy Pimblett. I wanted to do a little quick breakdown of the other fights, but the most important part to me was the most important fight to me, or interesting storyline, was Tony Ferguson versus Paddy Pimblett. The whole David Goggins walkout, so cringe, bro. I saw an ESPN post. They posted it, maybe I think it was after the fight. They posted like a quote that David said in the middle of, I think it was the middle of the 2nd round, or not in the middle, after the 2nd round, in the corner. And David went up to Tony and he said, lock the fuck in, Tony, lock the fuck in. And they quoted it and then said David Goggins in the end, as if he said some of like the most inspirational quote of all time. Bro just said lock in, and then they quoted and posted it on IG. Like, bro, what is this? Like, anybody else would have said this, they would have never posted it. And it's just, the IQ level of like Tony Ferguson is just not there. Oh, you know what, bro? I saw this amazing comment. I don't remember where or when, but I saw someone say something about Tony's IQ, and that the IQ that he had was the reason why he went on this amazing win streak. Just because he was like, he was fearless, you know what I mean? He didn't think too much. He was just, you know, going forward the whole time. Didn't have any like structure to his madness, and that's what made him so scary. That's what transformed him into the boogeyman that he was. And that same ability, or nowadays disability, is the reason why he's going on this streak, because there's no IQ behind whatever he's doing. You know what I mean? Maybe when you have the speed, athleticism, reflexes, power, quickness, you can be a little bit more reckless. But now when you're 39, 40 years old, you can't just be reckless and just, I'm gonna walk you down. You have to have a certain game plans. You have to have things that make sense in your corner. The strategy needs to make sense. And Tony just, the IQ level of Tony is crazy low. Khabib, I remember Khabib saying, this guy's just stupid. This guy's stupid. And when you look at Tony, the fighting style, the decision he makes, stupid. And I mean, in the prediction video, I remember saying Paddy Pimblett is definitely, most definitely, the most winnable fight in Tony's last 6 fight. When you look at all his last 6 fight, Gaethje, Oliveira, Dariush, Michael Chandler, Nate Diaz, Bobby Green, Paddy Pimblett is by far the most winnable fights. His striking isn't that great. Wrestling isn't all of that. His jiu-jitsu is pretty good, but it's not like he was going to out jiu-jitsu Tony Ferguson, especially Tony's also a good jiu-jitsu fighter, or at least he should be. So Paddy Pimblett on paper was the most winnable fight, and that's what I said in the prediction. He still wasn't going to be able to win, and that's what happened. You could see Paddy like in middle of the second, third round, gassing out, heads up, chins up, hands down, and Tony just wasn't able to do anything about it. It just so frustrating to look at. It felt like 2 amateur fighting against each other. I mean, you have to give respect to Paddy, the way he handled it. Look, there's going to be criticism on Paddy regardless, but at least he showed up, not like this other Machado guy. He showed up to fight week. He talked his shit. He backed it up. He won the fight. Respect to Paddy, right? But in the end, like, you could just see it. Like, those were 2 very, very, in terms of like skills, talent, not up to par of like the top 5, top 10, what we're used to seeing at lightweight, probably the best division in the UFC. Those 2 guys were just not super. It was kind of funny to look at the striking, and that's what made the fun of it a little bit. The unorthodox movements and stuff like that. At least at the beginning of the first round, it felt like Paddy had a better like striking game. Like, his stance was a bit calmer. He was ready to check leg kick. He maybe had like a Muay Thai stance, and then as he gassed out a little bit, you could see he reverted back to his old self, just like swinging. And anyways, in the end, it was a poor performance by Tony, like mid performance by Paddy. He got the victory, so I mean, that's the most important part, but it should tell you enough about Tony's career, Tony's status now as a fighter. And if he still wants to remain a fighter in the UFC, I mean, there's some people that needs to be pointed fingers to, because like, this is becoming an embarrassment to his career. Like, Roy Jones Jr. was one of my favorite boxers of all time, right? But the more fights that he was fighting after, it felt like he was just ruining the legacy he had created and built for himself. And that's exactly what I'm scared Tony Ferguson is doing right now. He's built such an insane legacy for himself. He's probably considered one of the best lightweights of all time, and by this horrible streak he's going on right now, it just diminishes what he's done and accomplished in the lightweight division, in my opinion. Hang it up. I know you want to go on a win, but just let it go. Look, I'm not the guy to tell you whatever. Like, I don't want to be, seem like it, but it would be a proposition of mine, just because like I said, I'm nobody to tell anybody to retire. I know, like, fighters always say this, oh, what's the quote? They say, you can take the fighter out of the fight, but you can't take the fight out of the fighter, or some corny shit like that. But that's the truth, I guess. Some fighters, sometimes it's difficult for them to get away from something they've been doing for so long, especially if you don't have a plan B, plan C, plan D, like other guys, you know what I mean? Like, you look at DC, Anthony Smith, Dominic Cruz, like, they've built a career or something outside. Dustin Poirier with his business, Aljamain Sterling, whatever it is. At least that's what I think is important in the UFC, that you try to build something else outside of it, so you have a way out. You have something whenever you're gone that doesn't like need, like, you stay leeched to fighting, even though you're out of your prime, you're washed up. So Tony Ferguson didn't seem like he built anything outside of it, so it might be harder for him as well. But the reality is, you're just embarrassing yourself and risking your health for nothing anymore. You know what I mean? So preserve it. Go try to do something else. Go be an actor or something. Go be a streamer. I mean, I would watch Tony stream, bro. Get on Twitch or something. That'd be fun. But anyways, that's gonna be my thought on the Tony Ferguson versus Paddy Pimblett fight. Shout out to Paddy. Hopefully you're not mad at me anymore. And I'll make a video on the Leon Edwards versus Colby Covington fight right after this. Hopefully you liked it. Leave your comments down below, your thoughts on the fights and all of the beautiful pay-per-view madness that happened last night. And I'll see you right after this, man. Peace out, boys.